Did you
Okay.
enjoy today's class?
Yes, sir.
Very
Enjoy.
much, sir.
Okay, great. And that is how I also expect that this is also the way you should always learn the political science, especially these theories and thinkers chapters. And I'll make sure that these theories and thinkers, no matter whether you are coming from the political science background or not, I will make sure that it is very much easy for you. So today we shall focus specifically on the Western political thoughts. Now, if you look at your syllabus, if you look at your syllabus in the Western political thoughts, you have you have Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, John, Jesmill, Marx, Gramsci, Hannah Arendt. But what I will also do, I will also try to cover up a couple of more topics under the Western political thought where it has been observed that questions have been asked. Now, the reason for starting the Western political thought, as I have also said with you earlier, that thoughts are important to initiate our understanding before we go directly to the theories and those like justice, equality, rights, democracies, political ideologies. So let us target to understand, first of all, the people who have contributed to the theory. And these people, the Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes, from there itself the theories are being generated. So first we try to understand who is the person and what is their contribution, what is their thinking, what are their thoughts, and how they have contributed in the political system or how they have contributed into the political theories. Okay, now let me come back. Did you understand so far, all of you? What are you going to cover?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now this particular portions, as I feel, I have seen many students, they face also difficulties in this theories and thinkers and the thoughts. So I would always advise you to people to kindly pay attention of this particular small topics because majority questions do come from these areas. And for each and every topics, I'll be sharing with you the study material so that you no need to refer, you no need to take extra burden to refer uh, other books. If you want to refer the other books, already I have shared with you the book list. You can refer those books. But before you jump into read a book, try to understand. It is not necessary to read page by page. When you read a book, especially for these theories and thinkers and thoughts, you have to be very smart while choosing which chapter is important and what portions of that chapter you should read. Otherwise, it will be like a bombardment of information. It will be like more informations, which might not be necessary for your exam point of view. So you should be very careful while reading the book. It is good to read the book, but definitely you should be smart enough to make a choice as to what you should read and what you should leave. But moreover, as I told you that I'll be sharing with you the detailed study material of each and every topic and small topics, whatever we are going to discuss, so that it will be helpful for you. And as far as my belief, you may not need any additional resources for this theories and thinkers portions, and it will be sufficient for you to answer the questions in your examination. Okay, so should we start then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very nice. So the first thing of the Western political thoughts, as in the syllabus it has been mentioned about Plato. Now, before we try to discuss the Plato as a chapter, let me set up the context, let me set up the background so that you better understand why Plato has given those thoughts or why Plato has proposed couple of uh, criterias and what was the thinking of the Plato and why the thinking has emerged. What situation has led Plato to give those theories? So, as I told you, let me set up the agenda first. Let me set up the background first, the context first. As you know that the real politics in the world, uh, generally, of course, if you go back to the ancient time, the politics was everywhere, but it was not recognized. It was not recognized that this is a politics. In fact, in the ancient time, and that too also prior time, there was politics. But as I told you, there was nobody who have concretely given a basis as to what a politics should look like. So there was nobody who have documented as to what a politics should look like. There was nobody who has given the perspective as to what a governance procedures should look like. So that is also the reason why we say Plato has emerged as an important person for this political science. Because from the Plato itself, Plato gave so much of effort to try to make a kind of a documentation, to try to make a kind of a solid perspective as to what the government should look like, as to what the society should look like, as to what the political life should look like. So we will try to discuss about there are many theories what Plato has proposed and what is the thinking of Plato. But we have to first understand the background of the Plato as to why Plato has only emerged. Because it is not only the Plato. Prior to the Plato also, there were so many thinkers. There were so many philosophers who have indeed contributed to the history, to the literature, to the politics, and to those society. But why the Plato has emerged as one of the important beginning of this political science that we had to understand. Now, I am taking you back to the ancient Greece. Okay, repeating once again, I am taking you back to the ancient Greece. Let's say I am assuming we are in the era of 450 BC. Okay, 450 BC. That means let's say uh, approximately 400 to 400. That is the era BC. And during the ancient Greece, as Greece is the center of the politics has emerged, that we try to understand how and who has contributed to the emergence of the political theories and or the governance procedure of the kings and the monarchy system. Now, in the ancient Greece, during that time, there was no concept of country. Now, today, we see there are more than 170 countries. Today, we see there are big and small countries. They have many countries, they are democratic, many countries, they are independent, many countries, they run on themselves, and many also, couple of few countries are also are having monarchy system. However, now today's concept of the country as to, for example, India is a country as to what is the territory of India, what is the territory of Pakistan, what is the territory of Bangladesh, what is the territory of USA. So is the case for Europe. There are many countries inside the Europe and there are many countries inside the Africa. These are clearly demarcated. That means in order to make any kind of conflict, one country is expected not to indulge in any adventures to provoke the another country. It is expected. And it is also expected, as the territory is demarcated clearly, they should not involve into encroachment of others' territory. So that is what we are expecting as of now from the country's point of view. But you can also see who makes a country. Okay. A country is not made by the territory. A country is made by its people. A country is made by its culture. That is what you have to understand when we say that a country and a nation. So country can be, you say that it constitutes people, it constitutes the culture, it and constitutes the territory. But when we talk about the nation is a feelings, the nation is an emotion which might not have the boundary limit, which can be cross boundary also. Let's say somebody Indians who is staying abroad might not be staying inside the territory of our country, but has the same Indianness feelings like ours. That is nation. But when we talk about the country, a country should made up with the people, their culture, and a specific area, that means a territory. And interestingly, if you try to observe carefully that every country has a different culture. Now, India is definitely a diverse country, but if we sum up as a India as unique, we have a one different culture comparing to the that of USA. And Pakistan has a different culture, let's say comparing to that of UK. China has a different culture, let's say, than Russia. So all these people, all these different countries, they are made up by their own people who have contributed into the strengthening of the fiber of the country. Understand this one, that a country is not made overnight. A country cannot be that you make an independent and all of a sudden you define some rules and it will run. It cannot happen that way. A country is full of struggle. A country is full of revolution and evolution. Because take example of every great country. You take example of India. You take example of America. We as a country, we have struggled a lot to find out our own identity. So that is the reason for which our core, our foundation is very strong, because we feel that oneness because of the struggle. So we should not forget that it is not us who has created this country, it is our forefathers and the prior people who have given their blood and sweat to form this country. And that is also takes to our duty, it is our responsibility, it is our duty to take our country move forward with the same values, with the same culture what others have given to us, to the next generation. Now, as I told you, that country is always a timeline. So what exactly is a thought and what exactly is the theory? Okay, theory is the one which is applicable to everything. But more than the theory, thoughts are important. Now, how do you define a thought? What is a thought? Thought is nothing but in between the time and the space. Understand? Thought is nothing but in between the time and the space. Now, today is the time of 2021 and is the space of the country where we are speaking. But when the Plato was there, I'm talking about the 420, let's say, BC. During that time, what Plato has talked about, the governance procedure, what Plato has talked about, the politics, that we have to understand. And why the Plato has said during that time and according to what situations. That is what is the greatness of the political science that we come across and we try to understand further. So far, did you understand? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, moving forward, our class to talk about the different versions of the background. I was referring to the ancient Greece. As I told you, that there was no concept of country during that time. Why? Because the population is very less. Today we are more than 7 billion population worldwide. During that time, very few people were there. So during that time, it was called as city-state. Okay? During that time, it was called as city-state. And in the ancient time, this city-state, the city word, okay, the word called city, from where the police is derived, POLIs, and from the police, politics. Now, what exactly is the concept of city and the state? Understand. Now, what you have to focus today is that is the city state during the time of ancient Greece same as the meaning of city as to what we observe today? That might be the question which you can ask yourself. Repeating once again, is the city state concept or the city concept which I am referring to you people during the time of ancient Greece, is it the same thing? Does it have the same meaning comparing to the today's city? Perhaps the answer would be more of a diplomatic. How is it so? See, the concept of the city, the foundation meaning is same. Okay, the foundation meaning of the city during the ancient Greece time and the foundation meaning of the city during of today are same. Probably what is the difference is the dependency and interdependency. Now today when we talk about the city, you take any example of any city, whether it is a big city or whether it is a small city, we all are dependent. That means a city cannot survive alone. A city has to depend on others. And who are these others? They have to depend on other city. They have to depend on the other villages which are periphery in within their range. Understand this point. Now, in India, you also have seen that many people are migrating from the rural region to the urban region. And one of the major reasons for the migration is the better life, better employment opportunities, and better standard of living. Okay. And due to this migration also, many people in the rural areas, let's say they used to do the farming, but currently in the city, you can hardly find any place for this farming activities. But when the density of the population is increased in a city, then how the city will survive without the food? So that is the one of the major reason why the city has to be dependent on, let's say, other villages or other cities to survive themselves, to fulfill their wish, to fulfill their needs in terms of food, in terms of water, in terms of other avenues. But this dependent city concept was not there during the ancient Greece time. And what was that concept earlier? You have to understand in the ancient Greece time, it was more of a independent in nature. That means the city-state concept of the ancient Greece, they were more independent, you can say self-reliant. Today our Prime Minister has advocated towards like Atmanirbhar Bharat. We should not be dependent on others, we should be independent of ourselves. Now, exactly this concept was there during that self-reliant, during that ancient Greece time. Now, you need to understand also that how come today we are dependent on the other cities, but during that time they were independent. Now, then we have to understand that what we are dependent on. See, we are dependent on the needs, and moreover, we are dependent on the wants. There is a huge difference between the needs and the wants. See, what we need food, we need clothes, and we need a shelter to stay. But what we want comfort. And when our want increases, we have to be dependent. But during the ancient time, as there were also few of the activities, so you can say that the majority of the people they involved themselves in the agriculture activities. And you know that now today's governance procedure is more of a complex procedure. Okay, but and today the administration procedure in any of the country you can find out is more of a complex procedure. However, you can see that in the ancient Greece time, the governance procedure was very simple. How is the society divided during that time? During those times, you can say the society is divided into, let's say, three major categories. You can say those who are ruler, let's say king, they will rule. You can say there is another group of people who are soldiers. Soldiers are basically responsible to support the rulers and to protect the city state, or maybe let's say the region. And the other people who are general public, okay, or the civilians. So the general public are responsible to contribute into, let's say, fulfilling the needs of the, let's say, food need, okay, clothing, okay, the water. So they are responsible to lead those lives. So during ancient time, life was very simple. So everybody was meant for a specific job and they used to do those jobs. But now it is extremely complex behavior, extremely complex procedure of governance. So far, now what is the summary of today's summary of so far discussion is to make you sure that no matter how complex it is for today's governance, no matter how the city has changed as far as the dependent is concerned, the foundation of the concept remains always same. Interestingly, this ancient Greece time, what happened that the city state, small pockets of city states, they were, as I told you, independent from each other. They were self-reliant. They were sufficient to produce themselves, and that production, let's say that food production, was also sufficient to fulfill the requirement of their own people. And during the ancient time, there was also hardly any international relations. Why? Because globalization was not there. Okay, so international relations, that means the relation between one city state to another city state was not that much. So that we have to understand so far. Now, when you understood this particular perspective, the city state concept of the ancient Greece, especially the one of the sacred place, you say the Athens, you may feel that it is so peaceful. It might be so peaceful if you can imagine during that time. It's so peaceful to see that people are doing their work, very less complicated life, very simple. That then what the problem happened? What led to the emergence of this political science concept, and what led to the emergence of the Plato giving many theories? That we shall focus in this couple of upcoming minutes. So far, do you have any question? Please ask.
No, sir, not yet.
No, sir.
No problem. Now, keeping aside this background, there are a couple of few more information which I just thought to throw some light on. During that ancient time, now today you see that the society and the politics are divided. It is very clear. The society is different, politics is different. The people who are involved in societal works, they are not interested in politics. No doubt, it's very hard to make a fine-tuned difference between the society and politics, because sometimes you see that people who are in society they themselves contribute in politics and vice versa. But politics is more of a governing procedure, and society is more of a social connections between people to people, and the culture which lives among us, the ethos, the values which lives among us. That is how the society is made up. But during ancient time, there was no division, there was no clear division between politics and society. You can say, moreover, it is a single entity. They were very happy to make it a very simple procedure as to what it should be a governing of the city state and how the people should lead their life. Very simple concepts. Now, to take the discussion forward, let me do one thing. Let me share my screen and I will write something. Now, when we today we live in the modern era. Today we live in the modern era. Prior to that, it is medieval, and prior to that, it is ancient. And as I told you that in ancient time, there was concept of city-state. And what are those city-states? They are self-sufficient units. But you can say in the medieval time, slowly, it is the end of city-state. Now, when we moved from ancient to medieval, in the medieval history, the city-state concept has slowly ended. And on contrary, what has emerged is the concept of empire. And for example, the emergence of empire, you can say the first example of, let's say, the globalization is Roman Empire. And definitely we talk about modern politics that currently we are doing. So let us focus on this ancient and medieval history from the point of view of politics. Now, you know that during the, if I take the example of the entire Europe, as it can be very much known as Eastern Europe and the Western Europe, the Europe was divided into Eastern and Western parts. So the empire time started. And in the empire time, what happened? Slowly, it has been observed that intermixing, there is intermixing or presence of religion in politics. Remember, this happened not in ancient but in the medieval, but in the medieval time, Europe, medieval Europe. So slowly the emergence of the religion intermixing with the politics that has started. Now you can see that as soon as the religion has entered, there are like two center of authority. And what are those two center of authority of this Roman Empire? You can say one is the Roman Empire. That means those the kings, Another one is, you can say, the Roman Church. Okay, you can see one is the governance procedure, one is the state or the government, and on the other side it is the religion. Now, you have also seen, I have discussed in the polity chapter, that whenever there are power sharing mechanism between two different entity, sometimes it is very difficult to balance, because it is observed that every time one entity they wants to achieve all the power. Let's say Roman Empire wants to say that I am the only authority. Let's say Roman Church wants to say that we are the one authority. So the coexistence of the empire and the Roman Church, and the balance between the uh, you know the empire and the Roman Church, is sometimes very difficult to manage. You can say that the Roman Empire, who was more of a, today you can say they are the like executive government in today's concept. So the Roman Empire, they have to manage the Roman Church, as well as they also fulfill the aspiration of the city state. Now, the problem what happened, that during this time, Europe went under war, which lasted approximately 40 years. So the war which went between different empires for the capture of the power, that went approximately 30 years. And you know that the in the Europe, within these 30 years of war, there were many empire who owned, and many also who lost it. However, the important point which you need to understand is the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648. Now, I will discuss about more about the war when I will start the Plateau. There itself, I will tell you that why Plato has started the theory. There was a war, and somehow because of the loss Plato has started, I will talk about specifically about that war in the Plato chapter. Now, in this background, remember, so far we were discussing about the city-state concept, but for the first time, the Treaty of Westphalia, remember this 1648, with this particular treaty, the sovereignty of the states, sovereignty of the states have begun. Remember, let me come back to you. Did you understand so far that how the the war of 30 years which has emerged, and slowly with the Treaty of Westphalia 1648, the sovereignty of the state. So what is the sovereignty of the state? So far you can say they are independent, they are self-sufficient. But now when the sovereignty concept has emerged, that they started involving to take their decisions on their own without any influence. And from the concept of the city state, a new concept has emerged, that is called as nation state. Understand? As I told you, from the concept of a city state, the new concept has emerged, that is called as nation state. And I have already explained you the meaning of the nation. It is not only limited to the boundary, it can be cross boundary. But nation states are more of by the people, about their values, about their culture, no matter whether they are within a territory or they are outside of a territory. And this Treaty of Westphalia, this is one of the landmark treaty for providing the sovereignty to different, different types of countries, city-states that converted themselves into the nation states. Did you understand so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me come back again to the whiteboard. Now, as we have understood, the Treaty of Westphalia 1648 interestingly, this treaty talks about, let's say, let the state be sovereign. That means they are supreme. And let the state will decide what will be its religion or laws, etc. So that is the understanding of sovereignty, what came forward from the concept of Treaty of Westphalia. Now, so far we have discussed, now we have came to the conclusion that with this, the emergence of nation state started, and also the beginning of modern politics. Okay, now I hope I have already set up the agenda. What did I tell you? That the ancient, medieval, and modern, and this modern started with 1648 Treaty of Westphalia. After that, it is modern, and during the medieval time, it is the concept of empire. Okay, and during that ancient time, it is the concept of more of a city state. So I hope you are very clear on this concept. Are you clear about this concept? That what was that ancient as a city state, medieval as an emergence of empire, and modern as a emergence of sovereignty. Clear, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as you have understood clearly, now let me come to the chapter of the thoughts of Plato, especially 427 BC to 347 BC. Thoughts of Plato. So far I have set up the agenda, I have set up the background so that it will help you to make a reference as to what was the different types of politics during ancient time, during medieval time, and the modern time, which started with the Treaty of Westphalia in the year 1648. Now, in the thoughts of the Plato, I want you to understand in a very specific couple of ways. Let me come back. You. Okay. Now, first of all, there are upcoming, like we will talk about Plato, we will talk about uh, different Western political thinkers. So the question is, what should be the approach to understand Plato or to understand any political thinkers? What should be the approach? Understand, if you read simply the life of Plato, if you read the details A to Z, if you read without knowing any of the reference, that would be like a hard work but not a smart work. See, remember, we are here not to do PhD. We are here to understand the chapter so that we can clear the examination with maximum mark what we can achieve. That is also my uh, approach to teach you those specific areas where you can achieve maximum marks. That means, now when we talk about Plato as a life, Plato has many dimensions. Plato has given many things. But is it important to read everything to us? Answer is no. So that means here the smart studies would be required as to know what we should read in Plato, what we should read in any thinkers, and what we should ignore. Now in the classes, what I'm going to do, I will teach you those concepts. I will teach you those theories what proposed by the Plato, the most important theories where it has been observed that questions have come in the examination. Then I will also teach you in the format of question and answer. So it's not only like giving a lecture, it is more of a, you can say that yes, there is a question and what should be the model answer. So that is how I am going to teach you in this political science, this particular theories and thinkers, so that in case of any questions which are similar to what I discuss, you should be ready to answer it. Okay, are you ready to go forward then?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good enough. Let us go. Let us start. Now, try to understand Plato. Plato actually belonged to Athens. Everybody knows Athens is an ancient city. And you can say that Athens is, once upon a time, you can say during the ancient time, it was considered as the most progressive city, or the most progressive state in the Greece. And during this plateau, during the time of 427 BC to 347 BC, the problem what happened, the Athens was in the state of decline. State of decline means it was in the state of failure. You can now see that a state as Athens, which was considered as one of the most progressive state once upon a time, that has started declining. And there is a war I would like to mention here. The war is Peloponnesian War. So what is Peloponnesian War? In this particular Peloponnesian War, Athens was defeated by Sparta. Okay, Athens was defeated by Sparta. Then what happened as a next, as Plato belonged to Athens, Plato belonged to Athens, Plato started thinking Plato started thinking that what was the problem in Athens. He started thinking, he started wondering the problems in Athens as to what happened, what are the problems of Athens as that it defeated by the Sparta and also it is in the state of decline. So, what was the purpose of Plato? Plato's only purpose was to, he wanted his motherland, that is Athens, not only gain its glory back, but also to become an ideal state. Now let me come back to you. Try to understand. I gave you the background. In the ancient Greek times, the Plato actually belonged to Athens, and once upon a time, Athens was considered as the most progressive state. And during the Plato time, like 427 BC, the state of Athens was in declining position, and it also lost war by Sparta. There is actually a movie. Have you watched a movie called as 300?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you, it's a Hollywood movie. If you have watched a movie of 300, there itself it has shown that how there were few soldiers of Sparta. They defeated, thousands of soldiers of Athens. Though of course it is a movie, so they might have exaggerated couple of things, but somehow you can just understand the guess that Spartans, they were more brave. Their war skills were also more acute comparison to Athens. So in this war, when Athens lost the war, Plato started thinking that despite having all the resources, despite having more soldiers comparing to Sparta, how come we lost the war? And there was a time that Athens was the most progressive state. What happened? What is the problem that Athens become in the declining position? So Plato's work of life had one purpose. The single most purpose of Plato is that he wanted that the Athens to get the glory back. He wanted that the same progressive state, the Athens should become once again. And not only progressive state, not only the wanting the glory back, he also wanted the Athens should become an ideal state. What is an ideal state? Ideal state is like everything is perfect. Ideal state can be followed by other states so that other state could see, hey, look at the governance of Athens, look at the Athens, let us follow their procedure in order to make our state great. So what is the sole purpose of Plato? The sole purpose of Plato is to, number one, to make uh, the Athens as the ideal state, and second one is that it wants its glory back. This is the purpose. When there is no purpose in life, then it is not a life. So every life is built up for a purpose. Like you have a purpose, is that your purpose is to serve the people, and what is the means? If you can qualify the examination, it can be your platform through which you can serve the people. So similarly, everybody has a purpose. Okay, without a purpose, there is no meaning to life. So we should have always a purpose. Similarly, all the Plato's work was actually based on this specific purpose. Am I clear, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Now let us continue forward. And so far you have understood what is the purpose of Plato. Look at how we are understanding. First, I have given you the background story. Then I told you about uh, what is the situation when Plato started thinking. Then I told you that why Plato started thinking. Now we will try to understand what Plato is trying to think. Okay, so this is the sequence through which you should also understand these political thinkers and theories. Now, as we can understand, the purpose of Plato is to create an ideal state. Let us try to understand what Plato has done in order to achieve that ideal state. That means that the next topic we are going to understand what are the works of Plato. Okay, let me come to the board. Now, the topic is works of Plato. So, first of all the works of the Plato, okay, all the works of the Plato, it was primarily based in the dialogue. Understand this thing. What is a dialogue? Dialogue is nothing but arguments. Dialogue is nothing but conversation. You can say the arguments of the conversation in between one or more people or one to one. So, dialogue is the way through which Plato believed it can be solved or the solution can be found. So, this is one of the most significant that majority of the works of the Plato you will find in the form of dialogue. That means Plato is saying something. There is another person A. Person A has, let's say, criticized Plato. Then Plato has again said something. Then let's say there is another person B. Let's say he has agreed with Plato. So this is a kind of formation of creation of opinion or creation of arguments, or you can simply say dialogue or debate. And interestingly, that's exactly what happens in the Parliament of India. That's exactly what legislature is supposed to do, whether it is union or state legislature. So what is the work of the Parliament? The work of the Parliament is to debate, is to dialogue the key issues so that a positive solution, so that a constructive solution can be can come out. Now, this dialogue is important as to understand further. Let us understand the specific works of Plato. Number one, the Republic. Republic, I'm talking about the books, okay? The contribution of the Plato, the Republic. You can say that it is like a constitution of Plato's ideal state. Okay, like we have a constitution to which we can refer. Similarly, the Republic, the book, is also it's a kind of a constitution of Plato's ideal state. Remember what is ideal state? Ideal state is the Plato's purpose to make his motherland as an ideal state. Okay, and all these works are based on that purpose. You can say that when Plato contributed the Republic, you can say that it was the work of young Plato. That means Plato was young during that time. Of course, during that time, the young Plato, he was more idealistic. He was more, you can say, romantic. Here, the meaning of romantic, it means imaginative.
Imaginative. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we try to understand this republic concept. The constitution of Plato's ideal state, or more importantly, it is the work of the young Plato. Next thing, the statesman. So, look, in the first thing, Plato was more of a young and more of a idealistic. But in the statesman, it has been observed that this is more of a practically. That means Plato, with the age, he started observing his works were more based on practical, which was not earlier in the Republic. It was more of a idealistic. And third one, the laws. So the laws in this work, you can say Plato was more mature, and Plato here is justifying as to why there should be rule of law, as to why there should be rule of law. Try to understand the three important work of the Plato, and through these books also there are theories we will discuss. Okay, these are the major works of the Plato, and within that work there are many theories, there are many concepts we will take forward. Repeating once again, Plato has contributed the work, the Republic. You can say that this is more of a constitution of Plato's ideal, which is the work of young Plato, who was more idealistic, more romantic in terms imaginative. Now, you can see, let me give you just one example of this idealistic concept. One of the innovative, you can say one of the innovative concept what was proposed by Plato was called as philosopher king. So when I will teach you what is the philosopher king, then you will get to know how idealistic Plato was. Interestingly, philosopher king concept itself was emerged as to identify what should be an ideal king. It's not only the ideal state. For an ideal state, there should be an ideal king, and that ideal king is known as philosopher king. And Plato, when I will teach you, I will tell you that Plato is not only given the concept of philosopher king, Plato has also suggested the procedures through which the philosopher king should be chosen. What are the exams that the person has to undergo in order to become the philosopher king? What are the stages the person has to undergo in order to become the philosopher king? That I will discuss with you when I'll teach you this particular philosopher king chapter. So far, now as you understood that the second work of the Plato, the Statesman, is more of a practical sense. And the third one, the laws, is more of a matured Plato. And you know that the rule of law concept, it was first proposed by the Plato in the book of the laws, and the Plato justified as to why there has to be law and what is the importance of rule of law. Did you understand so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Now, as you see that there are so many republics, statesmen, and laws. My question is that, see, a person cannot write without any influence. What I'm trying to say, a person's innovativeness comes with influence. Okay, now let me come back and let me try to explain this. So what I mean by this influence, it simply means, see, everybody's life has been influenced, everyone's life. So today you want to become a civil servant. I see that your life is also influenced. Your decision to become a civil servant is also somehow influenced. Please do not misunderstand the word influence in a negative way. Influence can be positive. You see how a deputy commissioner or district collector works, how the IAS, IPS officer or foreign service officer they work. So you get influence. You want to do more or you want to do like them. So our life is influenced. Our each and every step is influenced from many other entities, many other people. That is the reason why we say the mentor. That is the reason why we say you are my hero. What is the meaning of hero? Hero means they have influenced us. I'm not talking about the cinema hero. I'm not talking about the movie hero. I'm talking about the real heroes. If somebody has given something, let's say somebody has, like for example, our Indian Army, they have contributed, they have, uh, they are, they have, lost their life for us. That is one of the inspiration. Many people join Indian Army. They want to do something for the country. Influence. Let's say if uh, somebody wants to start a company, there has to be some influence. It cannot be possible that all of a sudden, in a very uh, all of a sudden a day you wake up and you say that no, I want to start. So to start something, there is always a procedure, there is always an influence. Slowly maybe it is hidden, but slowly it is influencing you to take the step forward. As example, I told you the decision to give the civil services exam. Now similarly, Plato has given this republic and all those concepts. Plato must have been influenced. That means there are people who also have influenced Plato. Remember, when I say the other people have influenced Plato, that means Plato is influenced from the other people's idea. That is how he has done his work. So he thought a lot how to make the Athens an ideal state, and he drew some ideas from different people. And finally, he synthesized those ideas. He tried to make the debate and dialogue, and he tried to find out the in the form of a documentation, let's say, that yes, this can be a coherent idea. So the next topic, as we can understand what are the works of the Plato, so the next topic we are going to understand who are the people that has influenced Plato. Okay, ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you enjoying so far or not?
Enjoying,
Yes,
sir.
Sir, yes.
Okay, nice. Let us start with the next topic of discussion. That
Sir.
is, yes,
Sir, Daisy and John are from arts background.
yes, I think they are from us. Now, let us start with the next topic that is related to the who are the people who have influenced the works of the Plato. Okay, let me come back to the whiteboard. Now, The topic is influence on Plato. That means who are the people who have influenced, who have marked an symbolic influence on Plato's life or Plato's work. I'm talking about 427 to 347 BC. You can say there are actually many people, but most importantly there are four people who have immensely influenced on the works of the Plato or on the lives of the Plato. One is Pythagoras. I'm sure you have heard the name Pythagoras in your school also, especially in the
Yes,
field
in
of
mathematics.
mathematics,
Mathematics.
and to be very specific, it is geometry.
Yes.
Next one is Heraclitus. Try to remember these names. Okay, in the first time it might be difficult, but when you revise again and again, it will be very easy to remember these names. Heraclitus. Next one is Parmenides. And the last important person is Socrates.
Yes.
You can say among these four people, that is Pythagoras, Heraclitus, Parmenides, and Socrates. Socrates is the one of the most important person who has heavily influenced on Plato's life or on Plato's work. You can also say that Plato was also a follower of Socrates, but Plato was also critic of Socrates. We will talk about those things later on. Try to understand these four people who have influence on Plato. But now we came to know who are the people. But let us try to understand also that what influence. Let us also try to understand as to what influence. That means what influence Pythagoras brought, what influence Heraclitus what influence Parmenides brought, and what influence Socrates brought into Plato. First of all, understand, I'm just giving you a brief. We will not discuss in detail of all those people as our work starts with Plato. It will be long if we discuss Pythagoras and Heraclitus. They themselves, they have contributed immensely. Now, let us focus on one by one. Let us focus on first one, that is Pythagoras. So first of all, what Pythagoras says, what is his view? What is the views of Pythagoras? See, according to him, he has always emphasized that the universe is based on mathematical, logical principle. Okay, so what is the view of Pythagoras? According to Pythagoras, he is saying that the universe is based on mathematical, logical principles. So, our society should also be based on same mathematical, logical principles. Okay, same mathematical, logical principles. And interestingly, Plato was actually Plato loved geometry. Okay, and Plato's love for this geometry that came from Pythagoras only. So, what is the why geometry is uh, what is that concept of geometry? You have seen that geometry is more of a logical. Okay, it is not theory. It's always a logical. Let's say if it is a circle 360-degree, why it is that so? Let's say there is an angle. Okay, let's say 90, 45. Let's say 45, 180-degree more. I mean total. So the Pythagoras theorem, you can sometimes you say that. Now the geometry is more of a logical, and Plato also acknowledged Plato like that logical approach of uh, that geometrical concept. Remember what influence Pythagoras has brought on Plato? That Pythagoras taught that as the universe is based on the mathematical logical principle, so our society also should be based on logic, should be based on mathematical logical principles. Now let us understand the next second person is Heraclitus. Heraclitus once said that, remember this thing, change is essence of the world. Change is the essence of the world. Understand? This is a very important message what Heraclitus has taught us, not only Plato but to us also. Change is the essence of the world. That means, no, if anything which is permanent, if anything which is permanent is the change. So change is bound to happen, and change is always a constant. Okay, you cannot stop the change. It will happen. It has happened. It will also in future will happen continuously. Now, as we live in the world of change, okay, this is always a world of change. And what Heraclitus has told that no doubt the world is changing, but what remains permanent is the idea. Very true. Okay. Look at Plato has given these theories way back to 427 BC, and till today, some of the ideas of the Plato's are relevant. You can say that in the world of the change, one thing which is permanent, that is the idea, and this was actually held by this concept is held by Parmenides. He held that one thing which is permanent, one thing which is permanent is the idea. Heraclitus say that change is the essence of world. Now you can say that the uh, Parmenides. Okay, let me just write down clearly. So you can say that Parmenides completed or complemented Heraclitus. Now, so far you have understood the three important personalities and what is the influence on the life of Plato. Fourth is, as I told you, is the person Socrates, who have heavily influenced on Plato's work and life. Interestingly, the Socrates has given the method of dialectics. Okay, what is dialectics? Dialectics means debate. It means dialogue. Remember, I told you that most of the Plato's work, Okay, Plato's work you find in the form of dialogue, and you can now see that how come this influence coming up, the dialogues concept is coming to the mind of Plato. It is coming from Socrates, because it is the Socrates who gave the method of dialectics, that means debate or dialogue. Now Socrates has also given some of the most important theories or concepts. One such theory is theory of knowledge. We will talk about theory of knowledge in detail later on, but I'm just telling you what Socrates has given. And the second concept is held by Socrates, that is knowledge is virtue. Sometimes question do ask, they will, what kind of question they might ask you. They can ask you that knowledge is virtue, comment. Okay, this type of questions you can get in the examination. Now once again, I'm trying to repeat what are the influence, who are the influence, and how they have influenced. So there are like four people I have talked about: Pythagoras, who have influenced on the mathematical and logical principles the society should be; the Heraclitus, who proposed that change is the essence of the world. Okay, so we should always, the world is always changing, and Parmenides has all complemented what Heraclitus has proposed. He has said that no doubt the world is changing, but one thing which is permanent, that is idea. And finally, what Socrates has told, Socrates has given the method of dialectics, Socrates has given the theory of knowledge, and Socrates has given the knowledge is virtue concept. Now, so far, as you can see that, see what is how we are understanding. First, we understood what is the work of Plato. Then we understood who have influence. Now, finally, let us understand that what is the methodology of Plato. Plato's method. That means the work of the Plato based on what method? You can say that Plato's methodology is also based on dialectics. Dialectics means dialogue or debate. Okay, dialogue which are expected to be logical, dialogue which are expected to be rationate. Okay, and dialectics is it's a logical argument, and dialectics is also the process of building or forming policies. And you can say dialectics gives also the graphical representation. And how is that so? Graphical representation, you can say that like thesis, that means you starting, that means antithesis, you discuss, you find out the differences, okay, you find out the criticisms, and finally you get, when you add the synthesis and this synthesis, that is the final. That means you start your work, you do the debate, you do the dialogue in antithesis, and you get finally in the synthesis. Okay, so this is what you get. This is what is the uh, you know uh, I should say the Plato's methodology. So now this comes to, there are two types of method. Two types of method. One type of method, you can say it is inductive. Okay, and another type is you can say deductive. What is inductive? See, you know, inductive method is like a scientific approach, and it means that you move you move from a particular to general. Okay, but what is deductive method? Deductive method, this is also common in social science, which means you deduct. That means there is a general and you deduct to particular. Okay. So if we can make a representation, I will simply say that the inductive method, from a simple particular point, you try to make a generic point of view. Generic or general point of view. And what about the deductive? It simply means there is already a general and you divide those things into so many points and you finally reach to a particular conclusion. So this was the method of Plato. Again, repeating, what was the method of Plato? Plato's method was based on dialogue, dialectics, which was itself given by Socrates. He believed in the argument, which is also a process of building or forming the policies. Then this graphical representation, and how does that happen? Means like thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And finally, we come to know there are two types of methods. One is inductive method and the one is deductive method. Inductive means from a particular to general point of view, and deductive means from a general you break down and you reach to a particular conclusion. Let me come back. Very nice. So far you see we have discussed so many points related to Plato. But before I started, as I told you, I first discussed with you the situation as to why Plato is trying to give the theory. And I told you that what was the situation of the Athens in the Greece. Okay, Athens was the progressive city, but somehow it lost the war with Sparta and it was also in declining state. So the Plato's sole purpose, sole objective is to recover the lost glory of Athens. And not only the lost glory, Plato also wanted to make the Athens an ideal state. And all the works of the Plato, whichever I have discussed in this today's class, are based on this specific purpose and to achieve it. And we also finally, in a very synchronizing and coherent way, we try to understand who is this Plato. We try to understand what are the works of Plato. We try to understand who have influenced on Plato and what is the method of work of Plato. So in the coming next class, we will discuss about specifically on the work of the Plato. Now we have discussed as a overall, what should I say, overall concept, like for the Republic, what he has given, the laws, what he has given. So then we will try to discuss specific statements, specific theories that are being given by Plato. Okay, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Did you
Okay.
enjoy today's class?
Yes, sir.
Very
Enjoy.
much, sir.
Okay, great. And that is how I also expect that this is also the way you should always learn the political science, especially these theories and thinkers chapters. And I'll make sure that these theories and thinkers, no matter whether you are coming from the political science background or not, I will make sure that it is very much easy for you people. So then, thank you so much for today's class.